Welcome to the TJ TV podcast video documentary where we discuss everything about TJ Gleason from the time he was a young kid to his podcast in 2015 up to 2017, where we talk to all his friends, his family, co-workers, and much, much more. This podcast, we're going to be discussing his early beginnings to late 2017, early 2018. Then we are going to be doing a video discussing from 2018 all the way to now. On this podcast, you're going to hear everything that happened to TJ from the time he was in high school to the time he was in college starting his podcast, to his first relationship, on his road to friendship, and the future of his podcast and videos. This is the TJ TV podcast exclusive special, The History of TJ TV, only on Spotify and YouTube. You know, for the longest time, I've always spoke my mind. I mean, yeah, always. And that's the type of thing that would get me in trouble later on in life. Even now, to this day, I can speak my mind about something, like either if I'm interviewing a guest or talking to my fiancé or my friends, I speak my mind a lot. And that does get me in trouble sometimes. Most of the time, right? I think. I was born January 13th, 1995, on a Friday. Friday the 13th, to be exact. I mean, many of my family members, make fun of me and say I should have been named Jason, or, I was Norman Bates because I was so attached to my mother, which I can vouch for that. I really was back in the day. I mean, it's weird to say that now, because I'm 25, but it's just like, it's very hard to say that I was kind of attached to my mother for a little bit. But in any event, I grew up with both parents, my mom and dad. I have two older sisters, Ashley, who is 11 years older than me, and Casey, who is 4 years older than me. My childhood wasn't very, I guess, abnormal, as many people, say. But I had a very easy childhood, I guess. In the summertime, I would go to my grandmother's, which is up in the Poconos. So my family has a house up at the Poconos, and every summer for 3 months I would go up there, spend the summer with my grandmother and my cousins Danny and Amanda, and that was fun. So yeah, it was really a interesting experience. But so when I was younger, I just remember going to school and hanging out with the kids on my street. And the kids on my street, I would always hang out with them. And their names were Mike and Kate, Troy and Brianna, Lauren and Greg, and this other kid. I can't remember what his name was, to be honest. In any event, we lived on a good neighborhood. And my neighborhood was one of the best neighborhoods ever. All the kids grew up together, and we were all friends until we hit a certain age. But I just remember every weekend, we would always go either in my backyard or, go down the street, hang out behind the baseball field. And, it was just one of those things that we did every day after school or every weekend. And I remember at one point, Casey and I would always share a room. And it was a big white room that was painted by my uncle, who passed away years before. It was a Dalmatian colored room, so it was white with black spots everywhere. It was actually kind of interesting, to be honest, just to see all that. But it's pretty fun. That's all we did. And, going to school, Casey and I were always together in a way. So we were never alone. So when I was in first grade, she was in fourth. When I was in, fifth grade, she was in ninth. And I think by the time she hit 12 or 13, whenever she went to middle school, like 7th grade, that's when we were apart for a while. And, she did all these sports and everything, and I pretty much just stayed at home and played video games because that's what I was brought into. I mean, literally, it was all the time, too. So before I went to my summer house, like I would always go to my cousins, Jamie and Danae's house, and we would play video games all the time. And that's where I, turned into love video games. And we played everything as far as like the first Grand Theft Auto game, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, Tomb Raider, and it was just us staying up all night, playing video games, drinking orange soda, and, prank calling people. That's what we did on a daily basis, throughout our childhood. And when we went up to my summer house, there were no video games, so I was forced to go outside all the time, I had to go outside, couldn't watch TV. Like on a day like today, it's cloudy out. We couldn't go into Delaware River and swim, which we used to do, but we would have to go outside and make fun and do something for ourselves. Which now, in today's day and age, if it's like, cloudy out, or even if it's sunny out, kids today, no interactions. They just sit inside and play fucking video games all day. It's kind of pathetic if you actually think about it. Like, it's really pathetic, having kids that aren't going to go outside and be active. I just know when Tori and I decide to have kids, it's game on. Our kids are going outside. No ifs, ands, or buts. They don't have friends, well, be by themselves. But, in any event, as soon as Casey hit 6th grade, she was gone. She was not there she was not in school with me, and this is where my life started. So, my life started in 5th grade. I was by myself. I had nobody there to watch me. And it was really kind of upsetting because, like, I didn't have an older sister to help protect me because she pretty much protected me my whole childhood. And when she was gone, that's when I got into a lot of fights. I remember in particular, there's this kid, Mike, who slapped me in the eye and ran away. And then this kid, Gary, just punched me in the face. And this kid, Josh, who I'm kind of friends with, ironically, we got into a fight, but his friend was holding me back, so I couldn't fight him. So, at this point, my mom just decided, why don't you do karate? And I did. I started karate my first year of 5th grade. I didn't like it the first day. And plus, on a side note, I was hard at making friends because I didn't really have any friends in school from middle school on. And it was kind of weird just because, like, I didn't know what karate was, and I always thought it was kind of stupid to do. But I wanted to quit because I didn't like it, and I was scared to break a board. But my karate instructor, Master Chris Dyer, me and him always have, like, a competition. He always says, well, I remember it was your first class you wanted to quit because you didn't want to break a board. And I said no. It was my second class. So if me and him always have a debate, every day, and it's pretty funny, just to go about that. So I broke a board that day, and I stuck with karate for, a long, long time. And that's where I started getting friends. I made a friend named Kyle, who was really cool. Made a friend named Ryan, who was a black belt before me. I met this kid, Eric, and Kim. They were very cool. I was good friends with Eric and his sister, but they kind of left once I got my green belt. And I was good friends with this kid, Kevin. And, you know, Kevin and I were cool in karate, but once we were in school, weren't really friends. So from 5th grade to 8th grade, I really didn't have any friends, which was kind of upsetting. So I kind of kept to myself and played video games the whole time, and, you know, it's one of those things. So I did karate, and that's where I met all my friends. But Kyle and I were good friends. I think we still are good friends now.
He set a good example and carried himself well as a leader. I first met him through martial arts, but after some time, I actually found out we went to the same school. We talked sometime, and he gave me a ride to karate class if I didn't have a ride to get there. After getting to know him, we became good friends. It was never a dull conversation with this guy.
But, yeah, it was just very upsetting just to have all that happen. You know what I mean? So, from 6th grade to 8th grade, I was always dragged in to watch my sister play softball, field hockey, basketball, or whatever. It was never about me. It was always about her, because she was the apple of my dad's eye, and my mom's eye too. I'm not trying to like start any fights or anything, but like that's how it was in the beginning. You know, she was always in the newspaper for school events. She was always, you know, on the school board for, you know, her sports. She was always getting trophies and whatnot. And it hurt me to see that. But once I started doing competitions, that's when I was thinking to myself, you know what? I gotta make my family proud. So I remember it was like my first competition ever. I got 4 first place trophies. Got that. Then second competition, I got a couple other first place trophies and a couple second place trophies. And I just remember it was just one of those moments. I want to make these guys happy. And then I was told, you're getting a black belt. And I was like, no way. Like, you know what I mean? This was around the 8th grade. And I was told in mid-August that I was getting a black belt. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I'm going to get a black belt. This is going to be a good year. You know, I'm getting out of 8th grade. I'm going to get a black belt. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And it was really awesome. You know, because, like, that's a big accomplishment that I would never thought I would ever get. A black belt. Wow. Like, it's just one of those great things. And, you know, I actually think for the first time in a long time that I made my dad proud. Because that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to make him proud, and I wanted to make him, you know, like me. Because I always felt that I never was liked. And here's why. So, at the age of 4, I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. I had a learning disability. And throughout school, even high school, it was such a hard thing for me because I got bullied a lot. And I got put into special classes every time. So, like, I was in a regular classroom for the first, like, part of the day. And if I had, like, to take a test or, you know, to get my work done or needed extra time, I would go into another classroom with 4 or 5 people all the time. And everybody would call me retarded, or you're in special ed, so you're not cool enough for us. And, you know, you're a special needs person, you're stupid. I would get called all the names in the book, all because I had a learning disability and an IEP. And it was rough. Even with my, you know, parents, I felt like it was rough for them. Because I was never good at school. I sucked at math. And it was just, you know, difficult. I mean, I had a sister who was a rising scholar. She was in like National Honor Society, and everybody praised her because she played softball and field hockey. She did all these great things, and I just did karate, but I had a learning disability, and I barely passed some classes by the skin of my teeth. And it's because it was hard for me. I didn't like school. I never wanted to go to school. I always remembered I would pretend to be sick, like most kids. I would pretend to be sick, and when my oldest sister Ashley lived with us, I would sit downstairs and watch movies with her all the time. We would watch scary movies. She's the one who actually introduced me to my love for scary movies like Scream and Crafted, Halloween, Jason Voorhees, and Freddy Krueger. I got introduced to all of them because of her, and that's one thing I'm grateful for, because I had a relationship with both sisters for a while. But I mean, when I had an IEP, it was very difficult, because I remember my dad would try to teach me how to do math, and he would get frustrated because we were working on fractions, I believe, and it was 3/3. It was 3/3, and he just pretty much told me, now write 3 3s, and I wrote 3, like literally three times on the paper, and he got really upset with me. But once I did karate, I feel like that was my gateway to do sports and make them proud of me and whatnot. But they always referred to me as a special child, which I hated. The one thing that I also couldn't stand, I have a cousin who has an IEP as well. 2 cousins, actually. Her mom, I'm not going to say her name, and there's a mom and a daughter. I'll just put it that way. Well, the mom is always saying how me and her are the same, and I can't stand to hear that. Like, I hate when people say we're the same, but it usually means like we have the same disability. But her mom always says that we're the same. We needed this, that, and the third, and I'm like, no, I didn't. I could do school just fine. I just never really cared about it. But that's a different story for a different day. So, around this time, I also got bullied a lot too, from 6th to 8th grade. And it was by these 3 kids, Rich, Lewis, and Matt. And ironically enough, I'm friends with one of them, which we became really good friends in high school. But yeah, they would always bully me a lot, and I don't know if it was just them, if it was just to make me tough, or just to see what I could do. Because once I did karate, everybody found out, and I didn't want anybody to find out what I did. But you know what? I'm glad that they found out, and I'm glad that I'm a good person. I just wanted people to like me a lot, and it made my heart bigger. And now I'm just, doing my own thing. So around the time 8th grade ended, I went up to my summer house and, just hung out there with my cousins and my grandmother. And at this point, I was rolling into high school. And this is where things get interesting in high school. A lot of cool and weird things happen. And I'm going to get into that right now. So then I rolled into high school. And man, did I love high school. I mean, it was only me and, everyone called me Casey's little brother, which was something different. See, the moment I stepped into high school, I came into a school where everybody knew me. From 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, they all knew who I was. So I was like Mr. Popular, and I had a lot of friends. And then once everybody just went away, like all the seniors and the juniors, I was left by myself. Although there was one friend that stuck with me through the whole thing, and his name was Steve.
I'm pretty sure we've met each other a few times through grade school, but we didn't really meet and start to get to know each other until after high school. And that was through our friend Mo. You probably didn't know this, but Mo and I hung out a lot before we started hanging out as a group. And I'm pretty sure Mo just got tired of it being us hanging out one day and just randomly decided to invite you. And I think we just drove around aimlessly in my car that day. Probably stopped at like a mall or two and walked around. And we just talked about whatever came to our minds and had a good time. I just remember thinking and telling Mo, this guy is kind of crazy, but in a good and fun way. I thought you were pretty cool too. And wouldn't mind hanging out with you again.
Me and Steve were good friends. We actually did a lot together. We went to Satonsville together. We went to the mall together. We did a whole bunch of stuff together. And it was actually, we had good times, but we also fought a lot too, I remember, in our friendship. Everything was all good in high school. I had like a couple friends, Steve and I hung out on a daily basis, and it was just us doing stupid things, to be honest. I also had a few girlfriends in high school, and, I started experimenting with sex and drugs, and, I think there was a time in my life where whenever I was in high school, I would go over to my cousin's house, and every weekend we would go and drink and stuff. Drink and smoke pot. I remember. On a side note, the first time I smoked pot was in California with Casey, my cousin Daniel, and his sister Amanda, and a few of his friends, and that was actually pretty fun, where we smoked pot in California. Unfortunately, it wasn't the best time to do it, but, I was 15, young and dumb, and I just wanted to try it out. But sophomore year of high school, I met another girl, and we dated for a few months. I'm not going to say her name. And then we broke up, and then we got back together and stuff, and broke up again. Then junior year rolls by, and I meet this girl, Nicole. And I immediately break up with her a month after we, get a little bit more intimate in our relationship. And it was pretty funny. Well, at the time, I thought it was funny because, as a kid, you really don't know what's right and wrong when you're, a junior or when you're in high school. You just think that everything is all well and good and you could put a Band-Aid on it and it could be replaced. So after a month of us being together, we had sex, and I broke up with her the day after. And I felt really bad afterwards because it was just I don't know. A lot of people were got pissed off at me and said they wanted to kill me and beat me up. I actually had some people follow me home from school saying that they were going to jump me because I made this girl's life a living hell, and I just really bullied her, this, that, and the third, and, they're going to come pummel me because I broke up with her, and then we wound up getting back together, at least, and that was the end of our relationship because we were off and on for a little bit, throughout my whole junior year. So, second half of junior year, second half of junior year, I enroll into a class by one of the most hated teachers ever. And his name was Mr. Soccer. Mr. Soccer was one of those teachers who was really creepy, and everybody didn't like him. And he would go and touch people, on their shoulder and stuff. He wasn't the rapist teacher that everyone thought he was. The whole school knew him as he was a weird teacher, and he's going to, get caught for sexual harassment, this, that, and the third, and whatnot. Well, when I did the class, I didn't think anything of it. I took his class in 9th grade where it was called, I think it was Intro to TV Production. And then once I got into TV production, it was the school news all over again. And the school news was actually one of my favorite classes, and that's what got me into the podcasting / news radio world. So I took the class, and I really wish like, I honestly really wish I had these tapes, because the news broadcast, it would be broadcasted throughout the 4 major towns where everybody goes to school. So essentially, Glen Olden, Collingdale, Sharon Hill, and Fallcroft, and parts of Derby, the 4 main towns, would go to Academy Park High School. And it was pretty funny, because if you were home at 9 o'clock in the morning, you would see the broadcast. And my mom, she worked night shift at the time, so she would come home and she would stay up or record actually. I think she both, stayed up and recorded all of my news broadcasts, and she would watch it, and she would call me and say, this is very entertaining. I really want to get these tapes. And I kind of wish that we had the tapes saved, and I'm pretty sure they're on in an archive at the school somewhere. I mean, I would just have to go and figure it out, honestly, because it's pretty funny just to see my tapes and just to see me on the news with these kids that I went to school with. And, I never had that. It's pretty funny, actually. So I do it again senior year, and this is where I start rebelling. So senior year, it was 2012, and everyone thought that the world was going to end, on a little side note. So I said to my teacher, I said, "Hey, Mr. Soccer, let's do a little bit." I said, let's do the end of the world. So the world's going to end on this day, December 21st, 2012. And we're going to talk about just regular news stories. And then at the end of the broadcast, I'm going to say, "Hey, Tristan," or "Hey, Alex, it looks like today's the last day of the world, so it was nice knowing you." Well, we did that bit, and we played the end of the world as you know it on the school loudspeaker. So, funny story with that is a kid who was mentally disabled. He was autistic, actually. He made a ruckus in class, and the teacher, had to calm him down, and I think he went home to his mom because it got that bad. And, my principal, Dr. Small, pulled me into the office and told me I'm not allowed to do that anymore, or I'll get suspended for that. And, that was the end of that. Then we had another bit where I was doing lunches, and I had to put adjectives in front of lunches. So I would say, like, greasy pizza, or, you can't touch those hot dogs. And then I got in trouble for saying banging hot dogs on the air. And we got in trouble for that. But even when I would, put adjectives in front of the lunches, I would say long, juicy hot dogs. And I thought that would, that flew by, it flew over everyone's head. And I wasn't even trying to make it sexual. I just put long, juicy hot dogs because the hot dogs happened to be that type. They were long and they were juicy, to be honest. And then the banging hot dogs, that got me thrown off the air for a week on, the radio. School newsroom. I was actually kind of upset. And then there were these kids in 10th grade that got me in trouble because they didn't know how to pronounce Yosemite. The one kid said Yosemite, and then Ben Salem, which is a town in Bucks County up ahead, he called it Bensalem. And I got in trouble for the kid not being able to pronounce, Yosemite and Ben Salem. So I got in trouble for those 3 things, for doing the end of the world, saying banging hot dogs, and for 2 kids not knowing how to pronounce Yosemite and Ben Salem. It kind of pissed me off at that, to be honest. So later that year, Mr. Soccer pulled me inside and said, "Hey, there's an internship program, a paid internship. It's $11 an hour, and it will be you going to do news broadcasting at WHYY." Well, I didn't go because I didn't want to do it. And, he was telling me I should be able to do that, this, that, and the third. And, it would be great for me to do that because I'm doing so well in news. And, I took TV production for 2 years. It was an easy A, it was an elective, and I didn't have much classes left. So I didn't go, and then he called my mom and told me. And my mom yelled at me for it. And she said, can I still do the thing? And he said, no, applications are already closed. And she was upset that I didn't do it, honestly. The one thing that I can't stand, though, is what happened throughout the next 4 or 5 years of my life. And this is where things start getting a little hectic with, high school and college, this, that, and the third, and whatnot. So, my second half of senior year, Mr. Soccer suddenly gets up and quits. I don't know where he is. Nobody knows what happened to him. He left for a personal reason. I think he works in, somewhere in Delaware. I'm not entirely sure where, but in any event, he quit, and nobody knows why he quit. There were, speculation of what he did. He did something wrong, this, that, and the third, whatever. So, at this point, I get called into the principal's office. And I'm like, great, I did something off the air again. And then he said, hey, he wrote you a 5-page letter. And I was like, who? And he gave me a letter. It was from Mr. Soccer. I opened it, and it was a 5-page letter of, he left for a certain reason, why he left. I should do this, that, and the third. Go ask Alex and Tristan what I should do, and we'll go from there. I thought it was really cool, actually. So, I never had a teacher write me a 5-page letter, and I don't think any teacher would have written me a 5-page letter at all. And it was actually really cool that he did that. And, I thank him for that. But he was telling me that I should apply for, this school, that school, and do some internships. And I just never did it just because I was that kid who didn't like being told what to do. And that was where my fault is, and I kind of wish I would have done that because it would have made me, be where I am today. I probably would have been doing bigger things, to be honest. So later that night, I tell my parents, and then they ask me what I want to do with my life, and I told them I want to be on radio. My parents told me it's not realistic. You have to go to somewhere that's realistic where you're going to make money. And I kind of get it because some parents are like that, but my parents were really against me going to school for communications. Even with the guidance counselor, they were very against with what I wanted to do. And my guidance counselor was pretty much saying, why don't you let TJ do what you want to do? So we did. I was supposed to go to a 4-year university, and my parents decided to go to Delaware County for 2 years and then see what happens. So I did. Went to Delaware County, and this is where the podcast endeavor began. So, Delaware County. I'll never forget. First year I went. It was at the Southeast Center, which is in Sharon Hill. And it sucked, honestly. It really did. I went there, and everybody there was either a drug addict, a junkie, smoked too much pot, or, they were just really a bad person. They were horrible people. And I understand, I went there just to take my core classes, math and English, this, that, and the third. And I also worked 2 jobs, too, at the time. I worked with my dad, and I worked down in the city, too. Well, first semester of college, I failed. Failed all my classes, 2 classes. And it wasn't that bad. I mean, well, it was bad, but, I failed 2 of my classes, and it was just, I didn't like that at all. My parents were really pissed off that I failed, and, I kind of agree with them. I was kind of pissed off at myself. So that's when my dad told me, listen, you failed your classes, and I paid for you your first year. You got to pay for yourself now. So I worked 2 jobs. I worked for my dad in the morning, 6 to 12, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and sometimes Sundays. And then I worked for the Marriott from 2 to 10, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the weekends. So I worked 2 jobs, went to school, and couldn't even juggle a girlfriend. So I did that all throughout college, and it was very hard, very challenging, and, I applaud anybody who had to work 2 jobs and go to school, because it's something I had to do and never had any fun. I really didn't go out as much as I did, and, I really wish I would have done that, and college wasn't that bad, but, it was very stressful. But that's where I met my friend Brendan, and I met a few other people that were pretty cool there, and it was a fun experience. I like Delaware County because I went to the campus in media, and the media campus is where everybody goes, honestly. But it was just a rough experience for me throughout my whole college year, and I think everybody has a choice, and everybody should be able to, everybody who does that should get applaud for it, because it's very hard just to work 2 jobs and go to school at the same time. And pretty much I worked 2 full-time jobs, 8-hour shifts, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which was the worst, and it sucked big time. So one semester of college, I dated a girl, and that lasted a month because she broke up with me for another guy. I'm not going to say his name, but he had pretty much the same initials, except one initial was changed, and it was pretty funny. To be truth be told, it was kind of messed up. But in any event, it's my second year of college rolls around. It's 2015. And I decided, why don't I start my own podcast? I asked my friends about it. I asked Steve, who was a close friend at the time, and, he told me, why don't you put your name, TJ Talks, on YouTube? And I didn't know how to do any of that on YouTube. I was still kind of fairly new to it.
When I heard you were starting a podcast, I was really excited for you. You were always talking about wanting to be on the radio, so I thought it would be a great start for you, and I knew it was something that you could maybe put on a portfolio. It was something I knew you'd be passionate about, and I knew I wanted to be a part of it. So I helped you come out with the original name of your podcast, TJ Talks. This is not to be confused or related in any way or shape or form to TED Talks. Anyway.
So I did TJ Talks episode 1, and I talked about women. And I had no idea what starting this podcast. I had no idea what I wanted to do with the podcast, but I did this podcast. It was a 10-minute video. I just picked a song that I made when I was 13, called Slap That Bitch, and this podcast was actually a very bad podcast in the beginning, and I got about 232 views on it. And it wasn't a good episode. I bashed women, talked about my ex-girlfriend and her boyfriend and something else, and it was just so bad just to begin with. And I asked all my friends, and they were like, yeah, I'm watching the video now. And I got so much hate for it. My sister got pissed off at me. My mom got pissed off at me. Told me I shouldn't be able to do it, and that I had to take it down. And I just looked at it and said, you know what? It's my first episode ever. I don't care. I'm leaving it up there. And this is where the podcasting thing went up and down. Now, originally, I didn't really want to do a podcast, and after the first episode, I felt empowered. But the only reason I did a podcast was because I took a public speaking class in college. And, you know, everyone said, you have such a good personality, why don't you start a podcast? So I did the very first episode of the podcast, which is where I bashed my ex-girlfriend and women. And it was pretty funny just to do that because it was something out of the ordinary, you know what I mean? Podcasting. Who would have thought that would have happened, like, ever in my lifetime? Just pretty effed up. So I did episode 2 where I talked about karate, and then I just started doing episode 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it was just something new. And what I was trying to be was Howard Stern. I was trying to mimic him because Howard Stern was one of my big idols. And everyone knows that Howard Stern is. He's the biggest radio guy in history. You know, talks a lot of shit pretty much. And he's just a good guy. I like listening to him. But in any event, I tried to be like Howard Stern so much. And everybody was hating it. My mom hated it. My dad hated it. And it was pretty funny because I had people commenting on my YouTube channel saying that I was a savage, I'm a woman hater, and they're going to come after me and find me. Like, and it was all because of the first episode. I had women groups, literally, like, feminist women groups come after me because I did this episode where I just talked about women. And around this time, I was working 3 jobs at the time, too. So, at this point, November 2016, I started working at this place called Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And that's pretty much where I started going crazier with my podcast and my thoughts and stuff. So, around the time before I started working at Enterprise, I took this math class. And I was getting nowhere with this math class because I had this teacher named Mr. B. I don't know what his name was, to be honest, but I would go to math class all the time. And he would scream at me and shit, saying that I'm a horrible student, this, that, and the third. And, you know, I'm not going to pass this class, just stuff like that, because I didn't even want to be in that math class. Like, he was such an asshole to me, and I don't know whatever happened to him, so I had to call the dean of math to, you know, get away from him. But in any event, this rolled out for about a month until I got out of its math class and went to a different math class, and, you know, still went to college, did TJTV, and my dad would get pissed off at me if I didn't do good in math. And it's always math, too. Like, me and him have always had a problem when it comes to math. Like, I don't understand. Like, he says he's like a math whiz, but we would always get into a fight about me not going to school. And I didn't even want to go to school at the time. I still don't want to go to school. I mean, with what I'm doing now, I feel like I'm doing 10 times better. That's just my honest opinion. In any event, though, I started working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car November 2016. And that was a fun period of my life because I just did my own thing. Or was it November 2015? I think it was November 2015. So November 2015 rolling into November of 2016. Okay, so around this time, my manager, Patrick, was asking me, what do you want to do? And I told him I wanted to be on the radio. He said, do you have like your own podcast or whatever? I said, yeah. I do this thing called TJTV or TJ Talks on YouTube. He looked it up and he saw the first episode and he made me delete it. He said the first episode was so bad you have to delete it. I don't care what you are. I don't care why, but you have to delete this episode. It's not good. So I did. I deleted the first episode, and, I kind of wish I had the first episode, but he made me delete it off my YouTube page, which is now known as Gleason Photography and Videography. But I'm kind of pissed off at that a little bit. So at this point, I just would do stupid videos to entertain myself, honestly. And it wasn't as bad, but for 4 years ago, it kind of sucked, to be honest. So I had my friend Ryan from Karate help me do this podcast, TJ TV episode 11. And here's the audio right here. This is when we first started.
Hey, welcome to TJ Talks episode 11. How's everyone doing today? Good morning or afternoon, depends when you're watching it. This is my first ever guest interview with Ryan Stark. What's up? Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, like he said, my name's Ryan Stark. I've known TJ for, how long has it been? 11 years. It's been that long?
11 years.
Man, we met each other at karate, so we've been doing karate together for 11 years, right?
Right.
Yeah.
He also has his own show, and I'm actually here to give him ask him questions and probably give him a little bit of pointers.
So was when he did the show a little bit, but after I did that episode, I thought about it. Why don't I do a live Facebook pretty much video? So I started doing videos on Facebook Live, and my first episode on Facebook got 194 views. And that was episode 12. So then we did another episode, which I talked about dating tips. Then I did a little rant. Then I did an episode on remakes. And then Ryan came back on the show again for 3 videos. We talked about Pokemon Go. We talked about positiveness. And we just talked about everything else, too. It was just awesome. And at this point, he quit. I don't know why either. Like, I said, hey, man, why don't you come on? Why don't you do another episode? I never did another episode after that. He just said, you know what? I'm busy with my things. I'm doing my own thing, and I just want to, go on my own. And I felt really upset about that, honestly. I was upset because he never came on the show after that, to be honest. I was very upset about that. So here are a few clips from the episodes that Ryan and I did right now.
We are live outside of Colonial Veterans Memorial Field, and we're going to talk about Pokemon Go.
That's right. How long have you been playing, TJ?
I've been playing for, a couple days.
A couple days.
Ever since it came out, yeah. How about you?
A couple days. You know what made me want to download it?
What?
I watched the UFC fights, and I'm driving home.
Right.
1 o'clock in the morning, right? 1 o'clock in the morning, I drive past the Norwood Library.
Right.
There was literally 20 people outside trying to catch Pokemon. Start.
So, what's our topic today?
Our topic is about social media and what everyone's responsibilities. Let me help you out with this.
Yeah.
Hey!
It works.
There we go.
That
We're
works
good.
perfectly.
All right. Our topic today is about social media and every person's responsibility with social media. Right?
We just got back from vacation. Well, I've been back for a couple days. You've been back for
A week.
And I had a good time. So, on today's show, we're going to talk about a little bit about our personal lives because I've had a lot of strange things happen to me and over the course of the last couple of years, and I want to talk about them. What's the strange thing that's ever happened to you?
There's a lot of strange things. I want to hear what happened to you, though.
To be honest, I actually really miss those episodes. I mean, just to look at the episodes that we did, they were pretty... Like, the first episode that we did was perfect. Pokemon Go was a little shaky because I had the camera flipped up and down. Then the one video we were flipped on the side, talked about social media. It's pretty funny just to watch. I mean, I don't know. I miss doing episodes like that. I really do. And he was my fucking co-host, and he just got up and decided to quit, unfortunately. You know, I kind of wish that we stuck with it, but on the other hand, I'm kind of glad the way it worked out. You know, me and him, there was no fighting involved. It was just, he just didn't want to do it. You know what I mean? That's just how it works. So this is when I started doing videos by myself, and this was the first video that I ever did by myself after the departure of Ryan Stark when he left the show.
Welcome to TJ Talks. We are live after 2 weeks. I'm back in school. It's going to be a fun day. How's everyone doing today? So I have a question of the day for you people who watch my show. How did lightning kill more than 300 reindeer? Because that just happened about like 3 days ago, and I really want to know, how did lightning kill more than 300 reindeer? I think it was like 328, and they were all found dead in Norway on, I guess it was like last Friday. So, you know, the New York Times posted this about a week ago, 3 days ago. But other than that, whatever. So, on today's show, I'm going to tell you how I really feel about reality nowadays.
I remember some of my episodes were kind of choppy, and it was kind of messed up, but I actually made a song, and it's one of the worst songs I could have ever made in my entire life. And here's that video too.
Alright, this is what we're going to do. I am going to share a new song with you, so here it goes. TJ is a young man, talk about shit, doesn't give a fuck about what you think. Topics to him are not a disgrace. He's gonna tuck your ear off all over the place. He is the man right now. He is the one to fight you. TJ Talks is the next best show. It's gonna be a next great hit. He doesn't care what you think. All he wants to do is kick some ass.
Oh man, that was a good song. I don't even know whatever happened to that. So yeah, but like I said, I talked about a lot of topics. I remember my shows were kind of choppy. I talked about, you know, Labor Day, did a Labor Day special. I did an episode about school, the lottery, frustration, the future of radio, why I don't date women, and then I did an episode where I was going to do Halloween reviews for 31 days straight. And it was also around the time the big clown craziness started happening. So in 2016, a lot of crazy things were happening. There were clowns that were showing up all over the place, terrorizing people, chasing people, stalking people. It was really kind of scary to think about, to be honest. But, you know, if you guys remember the whole clown craze, if you were around that, my age or a little bit younger, you guys will probably remember the clown craze that happened throughout the last couple of months. But in any event, the movies that I reviewed were, I want to say, The Shining, Stranger Things, The Blair Witch Project, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Then Steve and I did an episode at Field of Terror for 2 minutes. Lost, The Strangers, The Walking Dead, The Shining. We did another video at A Haunted Place, The Purge 1, 2, and 3, Freddy vs. Jason. And then I did a Halloween 1 through 8 plus the remakes. And yeah, it was actually really, it was really long, and I hated every single second of it. And that's something I'll probably never ever do again. And then the election comes along, when Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were going, head and head. And that was actually one of the worst times. So I posted a live video on Instagram, or Facebook. And it's basically talking about the election. It was the night of the election. And I was doing a play-by-play, essentially. The next day, people were complaining that Donald Trump won the presidential election. He's, going to destroy the world. And I decided to make a daring Facebook post saying, Donald Trump won. Get the hell over it. And someone said, that's easy to say if you're white. So people brought race into this. And I made a video about my election, or about my voting, like who I voted for and whatnot. It's called Post-Election. And this is what I said.
Welcome to TJ Talks. We are live today. On today's show, I don't know how I'm going to start it, but we're going to talk about the election and my thoughts on it. And I'm going to tell you a little secret about who I voted for and why I chose. So, the recap from the week, Donald Trump won. He basically won by electoral college votes, I guess. And Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but Donald Trump is now president. And now people are protesting in the streets, protesting online, rioting, burning American flags, and for one, I'm sick of it. I really am. I get the peaceful protests, but you don't have to riot. You don't have to go rioting in the streets. A peaceful protest is fine enough, honestly, in my eyes. But if you go and riot, you're rioting in the street. You're making it worse for you. Instead of doing a cause or serving a cause like a peaceful protest, you should just go you should just not riot in the street and burn American flags. And people were saying, I burned the American flag too because Donald Trump is now president. And Donald Trump is not a king. He's not a king. He's not an emperor. He had a show called The Apprentice. Maybe that's what people are getting from it. But no, he's not a king, not a ruler. He's a servant. All politicians are servants. He's going to be the top-notch guy that is going to serve our country. And people are just making assumptions about him. And maybe he will put us in a shitty situation. He'll get himself impeached, but maybe he won't. Hillary Clinton could have done the same thing. She could have been putting us in a crappy situation, and she probably would have been impeached too. Who knows? No one really knows what's going to happen at this point. But the thing about the Trump protests, you have a right to protest. I get it. But on the other hand, you just got to, ride it out for 4 years, or maybe a year, maybe 2 years if he gets impeached or not. I really think that's what we should really do. You should really just ride it out for a year or so. And I know people are telling me, why ride it out? Nothing's good is going to come out of it. I understand that, and I understand that people are really mad, and I understand that Trump has said some very horrific things and done horrific things, but once he became president, once he found out that he was going to be the next U.S. president of the United States, he basically was a changed man. He congratulated Clinton. He met with Obama yesterday. He was a changed man, and he actually has plans of what he's going to do. I mean, I understand that people are really mad and wanted Hillary, the first woman president to live, or the first woman president to be on board. But I mean, you just have to live with it. And I know I'm going to keep reiterating it and saying you just got to keep living with it, because that's really all you can do. There's nothing really else you can do. And I doubt 500,000 people that want to sign. There's a petition online now to get Donald Trump out of the White House. There's a petition, but I highly doubt 500,000 people are going to sign that, because most of them are Trump supporters, and there's about 8 million people in the, I would say 6 million in the world. And I get it. But first, I want to say who I voted for. And I didn't vote for anybody. I didn't even vote at all. And hear me out. There's one reason I didn't vote. I was for Clinton at first. Honestly, I really was for Clinton. And then I had friends who were telling me, why vote for Clinton? She's this, that, and the third. You're stupid and idiot if you vote for her, and we won't be friends anymore. So then I went pro-Trump, and then I thought, well, maybe Trump isn't a good president too, because people would tell me the same thing.
That was hard for me, telling people who I voted for and who I didn't vote for. And to be honest, I was a Clinton supporter at first, and then once I looked at Trump's, objectives and all that stuff, I just like Trump, and I still like Trump ever since. And I know people hate me because of that, but it's just like, we've never lived in a world where people are going to argue and have so much hate for what's going on with politics today. And if you want my honest opinion, I think all politicians are complete morons. And Trump was, he was different to the game. And I honestly feel that he's doing a good job. I mean, with the coronavirus, it's still kind of hard to tell because it's going on. But, I just think he's doing a good job. I also did a lot of, I also would go to the bar a lot because I was 21 at the time. And when I went to the bar, I went with Steve, this guy, Devin, that I used to be friends with, and a few other guys. And, we would go to the bar every weekend and just do stupid things. And at this point, I would go a little out of control with my drinking. I mean, I would hook up with a different girl every day. Like, I wouldn't go and have sex with them, but I hooked up with a girl like once or twice every other weekend. And it was really bad. For one thing that actually happened at the bar that I'm not really proud of. I was at the bar and this girl was like, "Hey, I know you." And I was like, "Yeah, I know you too." Well, at this point, my friend Steve and a few other guys were like, "Hey, don't hook up with anybody here, we're going to get kicked out." We never got kicked out by any means. In any event, there was this girl and we started talking. I knew her from work and I didn't know she was married. And her mom was right next to me and her friend was right next to me. And her husband was at the other side of the bar watching us making out. Well, the next week he comes in, he threatened to kill me because I made out with his wife. But I wasn't even aware. She had no wedding ring, no nothing. It's pretty messed up. So, from this point on, I would still go to the bar with my friends and I would still do live shows. So, my last couple shows, I did Why I Went Live show. I talked about finals week, why I go live, why people do karate, pre-recorded episode, and then I did my accomplishments for the end of the year video. And then once 2017 hit, this is where things in my podcast started getting really well. I did a birthday show, the pros and cons of marriage. I did a heavy topic. And this is where my show kicked off. And this is going to be the first day of the rest of my life where I started my podcasting, my career in YouTube, and much more.
Welcome to TJ Talks. I'm here with Anthony, and I'm doing the interview process where I'm interviewing artists, bands, anybody who wants to get out there and show their stuff. So right now I'm with Anthony, like I said, who's in a band called Far From Holy. Tell me about your band.
All right.
The first day of the rest of my life was interviews. Now, many people have, like, always asked me, why have I started doing interviews? What took me away from talking about topics just to do interviews? And I simply was listening to a podcast at work. So at Enterprise, I was a detailer, and the only time to escape from my job is to listen to either music or podcasts. And I'm a big music guy. I listen to music every day, and at this point, I was just, doing my own thing, and I stumbled upon Chris Hardwick's podcast, Nerdist, formerly known as ID10T, which it's called now. But anyways, I just decided, why don't I start doing interviews? Because interviews seem, more interesting. You get to talk to many different people, and I talk to many different people nowadays because I would drive people home as well. So let me just do interviews and see what happens. So I did an interview with Ryan's friend Leland, who was known as Young Yak, a rapper. That was a good video. We did it outside. I did a live interview with this girl, Madison, who talks about her artistic work. And Kyle from karate was on the podcast as well, which is going to talk to you guys about.
When we started his podcast, or when he started his podcast, I wasn't very surprised because it seemed like something he would want to do. Being a guest on the show was a great experience too. I was a bit nervous at first, but once it got started, it was just like having a regular conversation with him. He's a consistent guy and never gives up when it comes to what he wants to do, and I give him a lot of praise for that.
We did a podcast with Caitlin White, then the Page Turns, which was a band that Carolyn was on, an interview with this kid Nick, Paul, my friend Derek, who's been on the show before, his friend Sarge Chenson, my buddy Martino, Kyle, and so on. Now, before I get on with the interviews, I also want to talk about, around college time, I met these kids, Cliff, Brian, and Xavier, and they were over my friend Eddie. So, everyone knows I went to Delaware County for 4 years, a community college, a 2-year school that should have only taken me 2 years, but it took me 4 years instead. So, around this time when I was doing interviews, I was going to school, making friends, and I was going out and hanging out with them. This one day in particular, my friend Cliff, he said, hey, let's go to the bar. I want you to meet my friend Brian and this other kid. We're going to go to Fishtown and drink. Went to Fishtown, had a few drinks out there, just hung out. You know what I mean? Fun times. Well, at this point, this is where Cliff and Brian became more of my friends around this time, and we started hanging out a lot. I mean, like every other day we would hang out, every weekend we would hang out, and we vacationed together. So every day after we would go out drinking and stuff and whatnot, I would come to Wawa every single day, either hungover or still drunk from the night before, and it's pretty sad just to say that, but there's this girl that I met, and I fell in love with her from the day I met her, and her name is Tori Drobel. She is actually known as my fiance and my soon-to-be wife, because we are getting married very soon, and it's pretty amazing, what we've been through.
So I guess this is my turn to talk about the history of TJ TV podcast. So TJ said, hey babe, I need you to do me a favor. And I said, what's that? He said, well, I'm getting all my history together, so I'm going to have to put you on there. So I said, okay. What? Yeah, and I asked him, I said, is there anything certainly you want me to say or do or anything? And he's just like, just talk about us. So I said, okay. So one of the things he would like me to talk about is where we first met. Where we first met was at Wawa. That was my second job. So TJ loves Wawa. Everything about Wawa. But mostly, he loves her coffee. And that was where I worked. I worked in the coffee. He won't tell me this, but I know he would come in just to see me if I was working in coffee. So it wasn't always the coffee that got him to come into Wawa. It was come to see me. But he would come in, and if you work at Wawa, you work all the time. You work weekends, you work holidays, you work overnights, you work whenever they need you. So he would come during holidays, like I think the one time it was Memorial Day, and he came in, and it was like 2 days before Memorial Day weekend, and he comes in with the sunglasses on. And I looked at him and started laughing. And I said, "Why are you wearing your sunglasses?" "Oh, I'm so hungover. I drank way too much over this weekend. I need some coffee." That's a terrible impression of him. I don't know, should I make him sound a little bit more, squeaky?
So I didn't really talk to her at all, though, during that whole, period when we were hanging out and I was going to school. So before we went on vacation, we had finals to do. I went to school, did my own thing, passed all my classes, and that night, Steve and I went to see Metallica, and live at the Link, and man, that was a fun concert. I have some clips that I'm gonna show you guys, but it was really awesome. Just we were up front. I saw every Metallica song that I liked, they played, and Volbeat opened up, and I think I believe Breaking Benjamin was supposed to be there, but their guitarist or the singer, I think his wife was in labor, so he was having a kid and he didn't show up. So they had some comedian or whatever the hell he was. So a few weeks roll by, and Cliff and Brian are saying, "Hey, you mentioned you have a summer house up at in the Poconos. Do you want us to come up and hang out?" I was like, "Yeah, guys, let's go hang out and have fun. Why not?" So we did that, and that was the first time we had Cliff, Brian, and Steve with me. That was the first time ever where I texted Tori on Facebook, and I said, "Hey, I haven't seen you at Wawa in a while. Where have you been at?" And she said, "I'm on vacation, this, that, and the third." Then the first night we were there, we talked for a good hour. And literally, we talked for an hour on the phone, and she told me about her life and stuff. And then I think the second night we talked again, and she told me, "Hey, I have a boyfriend, and I didn't want to lead you on." And I said, "That's fine, I kind of figured that you had one anyways." I mean, that's the way I looked at it every time. If I was in college, or if I was just looking for a girl to hang out with, or just to, go on a date with, every girl I envisioned had a girlfriend. And that's what it was like everywhere. Even in my town, every girl I know either has a boyfriend or a husband, or they're just simply not interested in me. And that's how I always feel every now and then when I used to do that. But I'm about to be happily married, and it's fun. I just it was a fun experience when we talked for an hour, because I never talked to anybody like that over an hour unless they were a girlfriend or something, which I thought was pretty fun. So we went on vacation, had fun, this, that, and the third. I go back to work, and then I had the biggest interview of my life, and that was with Audra McLaughlin, who was on The Voice, top 6 in The Voice, and I emailed her a few days before, and she said, "Yeah, I'll come on your show, why not?" And she agreed to be on my show, and I went to her free concert at Rose Street Park, did the interview. That's when I started to get noticed, and that's when people started to recognize me, which was a big accomplishment for me ever. So here's the Audra McLaughlin interview. Here's a little bit and piece of it.
Episode 86. 6. I'm here with Audra McLaughlin, and
Hello.
I have been waiting a long time
Yes.
to hear you and actually get you on my show. I'm actually very happy that you're on.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you came, and thank you for honored to be on your show.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long process, and I've been doing this for over 2 years.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. You've been working real hard.
Real hard and working in school, it's just,
You're trying to balance it all, right?
yeah.
Yes. It's a lot.
Hopefully in the next 2 years I'll be somewhere.
You will be. You will be.
Definitely.
Just keep doing your thing. Keep working hard.
So, how long have you been singing?
I started singing when I was about 8 years old. I started taking vocal lessons at the age of about 9. And then from there, I was singing in recitals every couple months with my vocal teacher. She was
3.8K views is what I got on that video. And after all that, it just, it was actually really awesome. I had people, message me on TJTV on Facebook and, asking me to be on the, come on my show and whatnot. So I just would do it. I had this girl, Hannah Grace Russell, on my show on the 4th of July, which I really wasn't even planning to go on 4th of July, because usually holidays like to take off, but 4th of July was just a last minute thing. So in any event, we had her on my show, and then whenever I would go out, people would be like, hey, you did that interview with Audra McLaughlin. And I was like, yeah. So, and I'm just happy that, I got to do that. You know what I mean? It's pretty awesome. But yeah, I had a lot of interviews after that, and I got recognized a lot more, and it was really just amazing just to have that happen to me. You know what I mean? I never thought in my entire life I would ever have that. So around summertime, I decided, you know what, let's test the waters. I emailed Randy Bates, owner of the Bates Motel, to do an interview, and he accepted it. So we were going to do it, the set, for October 1st, I believe, and that was a fun episode, to be honest. And before we get all into that, I did interviews with this guy who created a podcast called Kevin's Cryptids, my friend Emmanuel, my cousin Danny, his friend Nate, this guy named Kevin Masterson, and this woman from Ukraine. And the Ukraine woman, she was actually really awesome. She told me that she got noticed from my podcast. And looking back at the views, we only got 139 views, so her fan base must be pretty big, or somebody in Ukraine must be a producer, because now she's doing well for herself, which I thought was pretty awesome. I did an interview with this guy named RJ Cummings in the summertime. Chris Jones was episode 97. And that was around the time where I kind of took maybe a 2-week break, because I went to college at Westchester University. And that was one of the hardships of my life. So around all this time when I was going and doing interviews and hanging out with my friends, in July, I decided, you know what, Tori and her boyfriend broke up. Why don't I ask her to go on a date? So we did. We went on a first date together, and, I told her what I did. And it's pretty funny, though, because looking back on it now, her mom has always said, Tori thought you were weird and thought you were recording people's phone calls, which I know that's not true, because I'm pretty sure I told her that I do a webcast and how I do it is different from what it is before. But her mom always says that. I don't know why, but it's pretty funny.
When I first met him, I never really knew what podcasts were. I've heard of the name Joe Rogan, and I knew he did podcasts, but, podcast was something I never really knew about. So he told me about it, and he knows that I would use, Spotify all the time. And he's like, you can, listen to my podcast on Spotify. I was like, really? So I would listen to after work, like when I would walk home from work sometimes. And, that's what I would do. And then I would hear about stories about me on there. And it would, make me laugh, make me smile. But, yeah. So I guess that's my time.
So in any event, we went on a first date, and then we eventually went on a second date. So we went on all these dates, and, it was pretty awesome, She was really cool. We talked a lot. We hung out. We went to Satonsville once or twice. We went to the shore, which my tire got flat, which is pretty funny. We went to the beach one day, and my back tire got flat for some reason, and we had to change the tire, and I had to get a new tire. It was just a messed up day at the beach. But, yeah, we just hung out, did a whole bunch of stuff, and it was awesome. You know what I mean? You got to do whatever you'd like. So this time we did go to West. So let's fast forward all the way to Westchester. First day of Westchester, I go there. I meet with my friend Brenda, who's also a friend of Cliff, Brian, and X and all them. And it wasn't bad, We just hung out, and I didn't like the first day that I went because it was raining and miserable there, and I didn't know where anything was. Even orientation, I didn't even know where anything was. It sucked. So Westchester University wasn't a bad school at all. I mean, it was awesome. I met a lot of cool people there. And, I was never good at school. And I did mention this earlier in the history. I was never good in school. I always did horrible, and my grades were very low in school. And funny thing is, I had a communications teacher, and his name, I'm not even going to say his name, but anyways, he pretty much failed me on 2 tests, and I said, hey, man, I know I'm doing bad in class. Is there any way that, I can make up my grade? And he said, well, you know what you should do? You should drop out and join the Army, because you'll probably do better in the Army than you're doing in my class. And I said, wow, you are a fucking asshole, my friend. That was bad. And then I had a women's studies class, and my teacher was transgender. And don't get me wrong, I'm friends with everybody. If you're black, white, gay, straight, bi, transgender, whatever. This is the first time I ever had a female-to-male transgender. And he was pretty cool, but he didn't like my views, and every time he would say an offensive joke, I would laugh. And I still laugh at those jokes, because if it's an offensive joke and you get offended by it, well, it's a joke. I just don't understand. People get offended over the littlest things, and you know what I mean? I just thought it was a funny joke. A funny offensive joke about, guys versus women. That's just how I am. You know what I mean? I've always been like that. So then I meet a few people in my school, and I meet this girl Carly, and she was kind of cool for a little bit. But she actually did the history of TJTV, the Story of My Life podcast, because it was episode 98, and it was the story of my life, and she was actually the last choice that I, made. I said, hey, listen, I need someone to help me with this video. Can you please help me out with this video? And she said, sure. So she pretty much learned about my whole life story from, 95 to 2017, which is the one Story of My Life podcast that I did a long time ago. So that was pretty cool of her for doing that, to be honest. But we did a Story of My Life podcast, and then that's where I kind of took a break a little bit for 2 weeks, because I was in the process of going to school, trying to figure out all my classes, trying to pass all my classes and whatnot. and just trying to, just lay low, I guess. I was also dating Tori, and we were dating for a month or so, and, stuff like that. Juggling with all my friends, Cliff and Brian and all them, and Eddie. So, after that, we, as in Steve and I asked him to come with me to do the Bates Motel interview with Randy Bates. And I went to Bates Motel. And I did the very first interview with someone semi-famous, other than Audra McLaughlin, of course. But I did the first ever interview with Randy Bates, owner of the Bates Motel, which I thought was really awesome. And here's a clip of that.
Randy Bates, how you doing today? Doing good, man. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you for having me. So it's the 1st of October, and this is the first actually hotel first one attraction I've been to. So I know it started in 91, and I know a little bit why you started. So you wanted to scare people, from what I read.
Well, we had the farm, we had tractors and wagons, we were doing hay rides to bonfires for church groups, Boy Scouts, guys, that kind of thing. And a neighbor of mine was doing a lot of trails, charity, and it was getting pretty big numbers for one night. But they wrecked this place. So the next year, in 1991, we decided to do something similar, but like a couple people. So
That was one episode I absolutely, hands down, one of my favorites. And not just because he was famous, because I'm real big into horror. I love, scary movies. I love scary things. And, my fiance can even vouch for it. And even my sister, Ashley, can vouch for it as well. Because, when I was a kid, I would always watch scary movies. And Ashley, was the one who really brought me into the scary movie scene. And so was my aunt as well. I mean, on a little side story, my Aunt Dama would always have Casey, Danae, Jamie, and I over, every weekend. Jamie and Danae are my cousins. My Aunt Dama would be like, all right, we're going to watch a movie. And we would have bathroom buddies for, the horror movies because we were so scared. So the Randy Bates interview was one of my favorite interviews for episode 99. And, it was really awesome. Now, episode 100, I had something different for this. And I wanted to have a special guest on my show, and I did. But it wasn't until episode 101. And I was supposed to get producer Sam from Elvis Duran in the Morning Show on my podcast. Unfortunately, she had a personal issue, so episode 100 is about 11 minutes long, and it was just more of a thank you video that I did, but here's a little clip of that.
I would expect it to come this far.
What's up? It's TJ Talks, episode 2. How's everyone doing today? Well, it's episode 2, and it's been about 2 weeks, but right now, I'm getting over that little shyness I have, and I am going to start fresh. What's up?
We're back for episode 100. Episode 100! What more can I say? A milestone, an accomplishment, something I never would have expected to happen 2 freaking years ago. What is up, everybody? So, before we start the show, I was supposed to have a guest on. 7:30 this morning, she canceled at the last minute because of something she had to do. And I get it, we all have things that we have to do. Canceled last minute, no big deal. So, I want to say who it was, because I know many of you people were expecting a banger today, which I was expecting to have a huge banger at all. But, so the guest that was...
Like I said, it was a thank you video. Nothing more that I can really do. So, this October, she decided to come back on my show again, and here's a clip of this episode as well.
Phone with a phenomenal guest. She loves to do yoga. She does self-care Sunday videos on Instagram. She's the co-host of a podcast called Acquired Taste. She is also the producer of America's Top 40 radio show, Elvis Duran in the Morning Show. I'm here with my guest producer, Sam. How are you doing today?
I am great. How you doing?
I am doing great. I'm actually very happy that you're on my show.
Yeah. So like I said, those three major things that happened for me in 2017 were one of the best things. And, you know, it was really awesome just to have that happen at the same time. You know, I had somebody who was on The Voice, had Randy Bates, owner of the Bates Motel, who's pretty noticeable, and producer Sam. I had all three of those amazing guests on my show for 2017, and that was one of my favorites. You know, it was really awesome. Now, let's get on with what's going on around November and Christmas and my last area, or my last time at Westchester. So, when I was at Westchester, I wasn't doing good. Like, all my classes were horrible. I was failing all my classes at one point, and it was just because I just didn't care anymore. I cared more about maintaining a relationship with Tori, and, you know, everyone always says, like, everyone has always told me, like, dude, you're doing all this stuff, you're, like, quitting, you know, you're quitting what you want to do for a girl, and it's not that. It's just, I didn't like school. I hated it. I hated Westchester. University wasn't what I thought it would be. It just, I wasn't having any fun, and, you know, I didn't tell my parents that I failed, but, you know, I basically was on academic probation because I failed all my classes, and, you know, it wasn't good for anybody.
I will be completely honest, though. When I heard you were quitting school to do your podcast and YouTube full time, I was a little concerned and a little hurt. I thought you would attend Westchester together, graduate at the same time, you know, seek our jobs out with their new degrees, and also thought you not finishing your degree was a bad move. But I realize now that you're just following what you love, and my parents probably just didn't read that into me.
So, on Christmas, Tori and I went to New York a week before Christmas, and, you know, we just hung out, whatever. And then Christmas Day, my parents go up to Rhode Island to visit my sister, and I just have Christmas with Tori and her family. But with TJ Talks, I did a last episode of the year, which is what I always do. Talked about, you know, all my friends. Thank you for everybody coming over. And this is where kind of things got a little shaky with Steve and I. You know, I felt that he was making fun of the show, saying that it wasn't good. I mean, me and him have had many disagreements throughout the year, but I just feel like me and him were kind of like going off the rails a little bit, only because it was, I don't know, I felt like me and him kind of had like a up and down relationship in the beginning and towards the end. But, you know, we're still friends now and kind of talking, so it's not too bad. So, after New Year's and all that, I did the first episode of the new year for TJ Talks, where I talked to this guy named Taylor Armstrong, who was a musician who basically dropped out of school and traveled the U.S. to, you know, find his way, I guess. I actually kind of want him back on my show. That was a good episode. It was really inspirational. Then we had this kid, Soli Kel, and then we had this other guy who was a really inspirational guest as well. Now, during this time period, around January, the first couple weeks, I decided, let me do a YouTube channel. And I asked Tori about it. She said you can make money from doing YouTube. And this was just actually a good episode, you know. I went, did a YouTube video. It was my very first YouTube video that I did with Brenda, and we went to Satansville. And here's a little bit of footage from this as well.
From the TJ's Vlogs, my name is
experience for my friends, and it's just going to be reckless because we like to live young and reckless. Anyways, to tell you a little about myself, I live in Pennsylvania in a small town called Delaware County, and it's a fun little town. We have nothing better to do but to do vlogging things. Right outside of the city, I will also be doing city videos and a lot more videos to come, so stay tuned for more, and I'll be back with the next clip. Deuces! Okay, everybody, since I'm banned from Wawa, I'm gonna...
That was January 23rd, 2018 when I filmed that video. So, I did a Walmart video with Steve, a Walmart video with Tori, and then I did a video where I went to an abandoned school called Slayton School, and it was an all-girls school. It was completely abandoned. I did a 2-part video there. And then I got stalked. Now, so I used to do live videos on Facebook, and some guy just like commented on my old YouTube channel, the Gleason Photography and Videography Experience, and he was just saying all this like, you know, horrific shit to me. So then he added me on Facebook and used a picture I had and said, "You've made enemies and you've made bad enemies," and then he said, "Watch your back." So it was really scary to have that happen, because I filmed a few videos like that as well, but you know, it was something that I never thought would happen. So then I got an email, and it was a producer from TED Talks, and everybody knows what TED Talks is. It is basically a podcast that covers news stories, and you know, pop culture and stuff like that. They threatened to sue me if I didn't change my name or take down my content. So here's the clip of the episode where it says TJ Talks is ending. And before I get on with this clip, they threatened to sue me a lot of, like, they're going to sue me for a lot of money. And, you know, it was really scary just to think about, you know, from being stalked and getting, you know, a message on my email saying that TED Talks is going to come and sue me because I'm using their name for copyright, which TJ Talks and TED Talks I still don't get, honestly, but, you know, that's what happened, and here's a clip of that.
TJ Talks, I am back. This is episode 107, and I have a big announcement to make. Very big announcement. So, it's kind of hard to say. So, recently I've been getting a lot bigger recently. And, yeah, I've been getting a lot bigger recently. In the last couple of interviews I've done, I've interviewed people who were either on like the radio or people who own their own company. I interviewed somebody on The Voice. I interviewed everybody, and like I recently got like kind of a bad email from TED Talks. If you don't know who TED Talks is, that's pretty much what it is. TED Talks is like a big news company. They do their own podcasts, and basically, they kind of want to sue me, in a way. Because apparently I stole the name TED Talks. I don't know how I stole the name. They just cover news, and I just do interviews. But pretty much, I got an email from an executive from TED Talks the other day, and he was talking about how I stole the name. I'm using them as copyright. I'm giving them a bad rep, which I don't know how the fuck I'm giving them a bad rep. But basically, I'm pretty much, I have to end the show. Let's go with that.
So yeah, I had to end the show right there. Around that time, I did one more interview with this other guy, and that was the last episode of TJ Talks ever. So then I came up with the name TJTV, and this is where TJTV is this is what TJTV is, and this is what we're doing today.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the final episode of TJ Talks. And yes, I'm recording in my car right now because I have a very special announcement to make. TJ Talks is going to be introduced in a new, different way. So, ever since the whole TED Talks thing has been like a big, has been a big hindrance to me, TJ Talks is going to be no more. So, TJ Talks is done. We're not using that anymore. We have a new thing called, TJ's TV. And it's going to be TJAY.T.V. Basically, that's what it's going to be called. So, TJ's TV, it's going to be the same format of what I'm doing. So, essentially, I'm going to be doing interviews, roundtable discussions, pretty much talk about like a random thing or thanking my fans for doing this.
So TJ TV is something I just stuck with, and I kept the name ever since, and I just started doing episodes from 110 with Cliff to 111 to 112 at my sister's house to 113, 114, 115, and so on. We're just doing a whole bunch of stuff, and it was really awesome. Plus, I was doing YouTube videos at the same time as well, like the Slayton video, how we got lost on the trail, how I, went hiking home because my car died. I went hiking at this amusement park, this state park. I pissed off my mom. I found stuff on my flash drive. Just doing, a lot of great, videos and vlog content and stuff. And, it was really awesome. So in June, I did an anniversary show, which was awesome. 3-year anniversary show. Wasn't really much to do. It was just more of a thank you. I did a couple more episodes in the summertime, and then I stopped for a long, long time. And I want to tell you why. So, because my YouTube career was kicking off, I basically shied away from TJ TV altogether. And I think it was just because I got bored of the whole idea, because I did TJ TV for 3 years prior to that. 3 years prior to that. And, I wanted to do something else. And this is where some of my friendships starts dying off with people. Now, in June, I did this video where I was with my buddy Danny, and he basically got lost on a road. And he got kidnapped by my stalker. So I made a series called the Stalker Series. My stalker kidnaps my friend Danny on this haunted road. I try to find him, and he's gone and he's missing. So we did that video, and it got a lot of views. My friend Brenda pretty much, called the cops and said, "Hey, I hope everything's okay. I hope you're doing fine. Let me know if you need help. The cops are going to that road. They're going to investigate." And I'm like, "What are you doing?" So I had, she pretty much found out that the video I did was fake about the Stalker series. Because I played it off really well, I thought. And it was really awesome. It wasn't awesome, but I thought it was pretty cool, to be honest. So she got mad at Tori and I for that. Then the one video I did at my sister's house, my friend Cliff said I need to work on my editing, and he wants me to come over and edit with him. So I didn't go over and edit because I don't like when people tell me what I have to do and what I'm doing wrong. I never liked it. I still don't like it today. So I didn't come over and edit with him, and he got pissed off at me, and he pretty much told me that a bar of soap can do a better job than me at this point. So I just let it go, whatnot. Me and him aren't friends. Then Brian and I, hung out. Then pretty soon Brian and I didn't become friends, became enemies as well. So I had all my friends were leaving me, all the time because, we all just didn't get along for that 1 year in the summer. And, you know, my mom sometimes points out that, like, you know, you're with Tori and you're losing a lot of friends. And it wasn't even that. It was more just like I was with these guys all the time, and they finally showed their true colors. It was weird. And then pretty soon X and I weren't friends, so it was really effed up. So then during the whole YouTube period, I also got a new job. I left Enterprise and I worked at Vidian. And Vidian was a dealership, a car dealership, where I did, you know, I was just a lot guy. I was basically the shop bitch. And, you know, that was a shitty way of putting it, but that's what I did the whole time. And I didn't like it, but I made new friends. I made friends with this kid, Dave Richardson, who's been on the show, my friend Justin, this kid Brian, and, you know, much more. So I became friends with them. And actually, Dave and I hung out a few times. The one video that Dave and I did was on Dog Kennel Road, which is a road I blew up in the summertime, which I'll talk about that in a few seconds. But this is also the time period where Steve was still doing videos with me, and we did a Walmart video, or Target video this time, playing baseball. And Tori and I felt that Steve was kind of flirting with her a little bit, which I asked him about, and he got really offended by it, and me and him aren't friends anymore. So I made a video saying I lost my best friend over this, and he got really pissed off at me. So then Dave and I started hanging out, and I would just kept making content on YouTube, doing a whole bunch. I called Booth World Industries. There was a car fire at Walmart. I have a huge announcement. You know, it was just an odd time for all my friends just to, you know, leave, and only having one or two friends in my group kind of put me in a depressing age, especially when it came to making YouTube videos. I also had a lot of things going for me as well, and, you know, it was really a messed up time, to be honest. So then with YouTube, I did a few other videos, and then I went to California, and that was pretty awesome. I hung out in California, and I had an interview with Chris Rabb, which I'm going to play for you guys in just a few seconds, and that was actually a fun interview because, you know, I never would expect to have Chris Rabb on my show, which I thought was pretty awesome. You know what I mean? It was really cool just to have Chris Rabb join the show and come on my podcast. But before we get on with that, when I was in California, we went everywhere. We went to Venice Beach, Santa Monica, Carlsbad, Hollywood. It was really cool there. I liked it. I like California, but I want to live there eventually, but I don't think that's going to happen for a little bit, to be honest. But here is the Chris Rabb interview, the very few seconds of the clip. Here we go.
Welcome back to another full episode. This is episode 122. I'm here with a very special guest, Chris Rabb, who was on CKY, Jackass, Viva La Bam, and actually, like, I grew up watching, like, these guys do, like, Define stunts, and it's just, like, I want to say thank you for my show, honestly, like, from the bottom of my heart. Like, it's not every day. It's not every day you get, like, someone who's, like, on TV, and, like, I've had people who were famous on my show before, but, like, you know, it's, like, not an everyday thing.
Yeah, dude, well, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
You could tell I was nervous there. But after that, you know, I did an episode of TJ Vlogs where I was doing the how-to video. Then I did Halloween videos where I was just reacting to a couple trailers, doing a jump scare challenge. I called out J Station, which I called out a whole bunch of YouTubers in my day. What else did I do? I did a serial killer prank, and then I did a video where I was being stalked by Anonymous, then he killed me, And pretty much that was really it for the Halloween series that I did. It really wasn't much. Then Tori and I got into a car crash, which was really horrific. She was in the passenger side and I was on the driver's side. And we were doing an Uber Eats run. We were about to go and get food. Well, at this point, it was kind of messed up what we were doing. We were driving. I crossed into the left lane. And this lady just hit me, sideswiped me. And, I was really upset about that, to be honest. Yeah, it was really upsetting just to have all that happen to me. And she got hurt too. Her arm didn't hurt in the beginning, but, her arm was messed up towards the end, which was really messed up. So then October rolls around, and I also lost a family member. My dog passed away, Maxie. Passed away just randomly. I'll never forget that. I was very devastated from that, and I know my mom was. So that was a bad episode. A bad time for us too. I was upset about that. So after all that, I did a few interviews with Jason Martinez. I did an interview with my friend Mo, and then he interviewed me on his show, which I thought was actually kind of cool. I did an episode on how to make your dream become a reality. Then I did the final episode of 2018 with my friend Dave Richardson, who's been on the show a few times. And then I did a really weird creative series where Tori cheats on me with this guy Mike, and I go crazy and I shoot her and I run away. I flee the country. And I was going to do that, go out with a bang on YouTube. And when I did that video, I was going to make it like a 3-day thing. Like, do it once on Thursday, Friday, and have that last video upload on Saturday. I was going to do that, and it didn't work. It was very messed up. And my whole family got really freaked out about it. It was just messed up. I mean, it was a good concept, and my aunt said it was good acting, but my family thought I was fucking crazy for doing that, and I was. Then I did a New Year's video on YouTube, did a episode with Tong Tran and Marshall Blue on TJ Talks or TJ TV, and that ended up on YouTube as well. Did an episode with Beta Cloud. And then I did an episode with Joe Franz, who was on CKY, Jackass, Viva La Bam, and much more. And that was a good episode, but unfortunately that video got corrupted. The file did, and only got to record like 40 minutes of it. And I'm very upset about that because he had a lot to say. And also I did a video where I was getting kicked out of my house, where I got my apartment. And, I signed my life away, I got the apartment, I got into a fight with Joe Franz. Then we did an episode where moving day, so Tori and I were moving all our stuff in. Then eviction day, which was a good video that I did. And when I did those videos, I wasn't trying to hurt anybody. Those videos actually, my parents got really upset with me there. And, I apologized. We had a big little fight, and I had to apologize about that. But, we just didn't, I just didn't care, and I just wanted to make content for everybody, and I thought it was cool, you know what I mean? So, that's really what happened. I just didn't give a fuck. Then with TJ Talks, or TJ TV, I did an episode with John Tracy. I did an episode where I said big things are coming in my car. Did an interview with Connie. Just did another episode where I said big things are coming. And I did yet again another episode where I said big things are coming. Then I reacted to John Tracy's videos on YouTube. Reacted to another video on YouTube. Then I just started doing more YouTube videos during this time as well. I made a video where I said I got kicked out of college. I made a video where I called Booth World Industries. I found an abandoned park. We had an apartment tour, anonymous teaser trailer, and then I did an episode where I was at the park and I said I'm ending everything after 139 episodes, which I was basically telling everybody what I was going to do and whatnot. So I kind of fell off the grid again. Then I started posting all of my YouTube videos that I've been doing, where I went to Devil's Road on TJTV, then I did the anonymous teaser trailer on TJTV, the John Tracy trailer. Then I did an episode where the government's hiding stuff from us. And with TJTV, I just kept doing a whole bunch of my YouTube videos. I just put all my YouTube videos on TJTV as part of, everything, which it's just, bad. I just didn't do anything with TJTV anymore. I just kept posting my YouTube videos and saying the government shut me down, and 156 episodes I didn't do anything. I just quit TJTV altogether. I haven't done a podcast in 3 months of summer or 3 months of spring, and I just started doing YouTube videos. So I did an Easter video on the Delaware River, going to my parents' house. And then this was around the time where I left my job at Vidian and started working at a place called Abra. And basically, I didn't like anything at the moment. And I was actually in the process of trying to start a web series called Anonymous. And basically, I had all the actors, I had everybody, lined up. And, I would just had everything, set in stone. And then the last second, everybody quit, which I was really upset about. And I was also, jobless for about a week, which I just filmed pretty much a new series where the government was, coming to my house to kidnap me because I made a podcast about it a few months prior to what I was doing. So I have to say, though, once I started working at Abra, I was a detailer, just cleaning cars and whatnot. And now, just looking back, it was the worst job I could have ever taken in my entire life. And it was a fucking military base. So I would film, and then I would, go to work 8 to 5, and then I would have to stay 8 to 6 or 8 to 7 some nights. And I had a lot of film projects I had over the summer. Pretty much it was just the worst summer I've ever had. And especially with my car wasn't working correctly. I had no air in my car at one point. It was just horrible for me. It was a horrible experience. And I'm just upset about it, So in the summer I also started filming Dimension X, and my family wasn't getting along still. We were still fighting all the time. It was one of the worst experiences I've ever had. And which made it worse, this guy that I work with, Mike, he was such an asshole to me. He tried to control every situation. He would never let me leave. He acted like my boss because he's been there longer. And it was just horrible. You know what I mean? I was tired of, being pushed around and shit. And I just didn't like it. I had a set time I wanted to get out. I never got out. And, they would just piss me off all the fucking time. And I regret doing that job. I still regret doing that job. And at this point in the summer, I was pretty much filming the series and wasn't making any good money because I had a lot of film projects that I would have made bank. I lost over $1,000 because of that fucking job. And that's where I found Anchor. Midsummer. It was mid-June. So I found Anchor.fm, which is basically a podcasting app, and you can make money with minimum listenership, this, that, and the third, and you get broadcasted on Spotify and whatnot. So I found Anchor, and then I just started doing episodes 3 days a week, once again, because I could do it from my phone, and it was really awesome. I applaud Anchor for that. I mean, it was amazing, and I'm glad that I got to do it. You know what I mean? It was really great. It made me happier, and I started getting happier. And then once summer rolled around, I filmed the final episode of Dimension X, and I just started doing podcasts more, and I got a job where I'm at now, and I told myself this is going to be the last job in the trade business. And I'm not going to say the job I'm at now only because it's not, you know what I mean? I don't want to say it. But in any event, I got this job in September, and I filmed the final episode of Dimension X, did a little behind the scenes, did some other videos, and then I decided, well, I gotta stop doing YouTube altogether. And I made a daring video saying I might be quitting YouTube because I'm not happy with their tools. So I took off a few weeks, but it was only to film a documentary called the Bates Motel documentary, which is probably going to be my final Bates Motel video that I ever do, only because I've been doing stuff with him for 3 years, like projects, and I'm just tired of the projects, you know what I mean? If he calls me back, then maybe, but that was my second professional paycheck that I've ever gotten versus the first one I got. Third professional paycheck because of podcasting, honestly. But yeah, so we filmed the Bates Motel documentary, still did a little bit of vlog content. I got rid of my car, the Saturn Ion, and got a Jeep Commander at Fala Auto Group, which, if you guys haven't heard that podcast, it's probably a few months old. Go check that out. Don't ever go to Fala Auto Group at all. They are the worst car dealership ever. So we got a Jeep, and then the Jeep broke down a few times, which caused me to have a little uproar. And then, some other shit happened and whatnot. It just, I don't know. 2019 was a very fucked up year for Tori and I and family and friends and whatnot. Still kind of is. Even when I would go with my friends, like, my Jeep would just fuck up. I hated it all the time, to be honest. So in any event, November rolls around. I start doing videos on both Facebook and YouTube. I'm slowly trying to move my vlog content to Facebook. And, I just am not doing really any YouTube videos. And I did a final video saying I'm going to be quitting YouTube January 1st, 2020. Did a Christmas video on YouTube. Did a Christmas video on Facebook. And then I quit YouTube in January of 2020.
Was it hard for him to do podcasts and YouTube? Well, just like any relationship, it's always hard at some point. Working with, YouTube and podcasts and work and relationships, it can be hard at times, but, you just gotta keep moving forward and try not to stress, because that's what a lot of people do, is they stress, and then they, if they're passionate enough about it, that's what keeps them going. But if you're not really too passionate about something, you'll just, I can't do it anymore, and you'll quit one. So he did quit one for a little bit. He did quit YouTube, but not because he didn't want to do it. It's because whatever he posted would get taken down for copywriting, or, nobody liked his content enough. So he just stuck to podcasts for a while because people like that more.
So after, that video in 2020, I was also working on another season of Dimension X, season 2 and 3. And I knew I needed actors. I was going to make Tori was going to be Sarah. I was going to play as the Grim Reaper or the Devil, and then I was going to have someone else play the Grim Reaper or the Devil, depending on who wanted to be who. I had somebody in the beginning of September flaked. Then I reconnected with an old friend from karate, Kevin Rawson, who helped me out with it, and he's going to say a few words. So then after Kevin and I were doing the series, I wanted him to be the Devil, and he was the Grim Reaper. And we filmed the first episode together, me and him, and then he said, hey, I'm more into acting, or filming. I don't want to act. And I'm just like, well, what the fuck, man? Like, I need someone to act. So I had to go and find an actor. Then I asked my friend Devin, who is gay, which, like I said, I don't care what you are, race, sexual preferences, whatever. So I had him as the Devil, and I actually thought it was a good choice because I've seen a lot of shows where the Devil was played by a gay character, and the gay Devil was really awesome, I thought. But the thing I hated about filming Dimension X Season 2 and 3, it was flopped. Like, Kevin would be here one weekend, Devin would be here the next. So I either had to film, every other week. And even towards the end, I remember I filmed the last 3 episodes. And, I wasn't upset about it. I'm very, if I am managing something, and if I know you have a good excuse for what's going on, then I could be all right, whatever. Say if your grandmother died, or your dad died, or you had to pick up a shift at work, I could see that. And the only problem with that was when Devin was in school, he would always say, hey, I got schoolwork I gotta do. I said, what time do you get done school? He said 3 o'clock. I said, cool, I get done work at 4:30. Why don't you come over around 8? And, that gives you plenty of time to, go to school or come home from school and do homework. Even if you took the bus, that gives you plenty of time to do homework on the bus. That's the way I look at it. And I'm very passionate about filming. I've always have been. But, the last few episodes of Dimension X, I know I filmed episode 1, 3, and 4, and that's because Kevin, I think he got sick during the coronavirus, so it was really hard for me, and, he kind of didn't, the way I look at it, it felt like he didn't want me to film a second or a third season, because he did say season, when you film 2 seasons of something in 1 year or 2 months, usually if you're doing 1 season, you have to take a break and do it the next season, which I don't know. That's just the way I look at it. But in any event, we filmed season 3 of Dimension X, and then that was really it. I just got back on YouTube after Dimension X, and I did a video where I just filmed my life around, and that was about 6 minutes. Talked about what's going to happen, what I'm going to do for the show. So, pretty much, Tori and I got a new car, a Hyundai Elantra. We got rid of the shitty Jeep from Fala, which I'm glad that happened. She's doing stuff at the fish tank. I'm working on a movie that I'm not going to say what it is yet. So, that should be fun. And that's really it. I mean, that was really it for the whole 2020 right now. And, everyone always asks me, what is your end game? I don't have an end game. I never really did. My end game is, working my ass off to get to where I want to be, and I have been. And I'm still doing my podcast and whatnot. I have a few great guests that have been on, and I'm very excited to see what the future holds for me, But, my end game, everyone always asks me what I want to do with my life. radio is something I want to do. And if I had to start on TV and get my own show, I'll do that as well. I just like being on camera. That's just me, honestly. But, yeah, that's really it. That is my end game. But everybody who's helped me throughout the last 5 years, I want to say thank you a lot. You know, it means a lot to me. You know, thank you to Steve, Ryan, Kevin, Connie, Brian, Cliff, even though we're not friends anymore, Kevin, Devin, Dave, Richardson, Noah, everybody. Tori, big thank you to her because, you know, she supported me throughout the whole thing. And it was so hard for us. You know, when you're in a relationship and you're a podcaster or a YouTuber, it's so hard for your wife or your girlfriend that you're just starting to, like, understand, you know, how hard it is because you got fans that are going to, like, you know, like her. You got fans that may bash her. You got fans that are going to do this, that, and the third. And it's hard for a lot of people in relationships who are dating, like, a YouTuber or podcaster or whatever. And she stuck with me through the whole thing. And you respect that. You have to respect that a lot. Yeah. But, thank you to her as well. And that's it. That's going to be the end. Now go home. And, stay tuned for the five-year show next week. Alright guys, thank you for listening to the history of TJ TV. I hope you enjoyed my full story for this long couple hours. If you guys stayed for the whole thing, thank you. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, tgleason22, TJGX5. Go follow me on Spotify, Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts. Also go on TJ TV on Facebook, Gleason Photography and Videography on Facebook, TJ's Vlogs on YouTube, and that's really it, guys. Hope you enjoy this. Stay tuned because next week we are doing the 5-year show live on Facebook on TJ TV for 2 hours. We have a few musical guests performing, and it's going to be a lit banger. Peace out, everybody. Hopefully you guys have a good day.